Emma sat on the windowsill of her room, staring at the fading light of the evening sky. Her thoughts were tangled, her heart heavy. She could hear her brother Alex laughing downstairs, his deep voice mingling with the softer, melodic laugh of someone else. Her. Lila. Emma closed her eyes, trying to will away the feelings that had been building inside her since the day Alex introduced Lila as his girlfriend. She still remembered the first time Lila walked through the door, her smile warm, her presence magnetic. Emma had tried to brush it off as admiration at first. Maybe it was just awe, she told herself. Lila was everything Emma wished she could be, confident, kind, and effortlessly beautiful. But as the days turned into weeks, Emma realized it wasn't just admiration. It was something deeper, something she couldn't control. Her heart fluttered when Lila spoke to her, even about the most mundane things. She caught herself staring at Lila's hands when she gestured while talking, or the way her hair fell perfectly across her shoulders. Every laugh, every smile, every fleeting glance made Emma feel alive, and it terrified her. It wasn't just the fear of rejection, it was the guilt. How could she feel this way about her brother's girlfriend? What kind of person did that make her? "Emma, dinner's ready," Alex called from downstairs, jolting her from her thoughts. "I'll be right there," she replied, her voice trembling. Emma looked at herself in the mirror, her reflection a mix of shame and longing. "What is my fault?" she whispered to herself. "That I feel this way? That I can't stop?" Downstairs, the table was set, and Lila was helping Alex bring in plates. She glanced up and caught Emma's eye, offering her a smile so genuine it made Emma's chest ache. "You okay?" Lila asked as Emma sat down. Emma nodded quickly, avoiding her gaze. "Yeah, just tired." But tired wasn't the right word. Emma was exhausted. Exhausted from pretending, from keeping her feelings buried, from trying to be the perfect sister when all she wanted was something she could never have. As the conversation flowed around the table, Emma stayed quiet, lost in her own turmoil. Every laugh that escaped Lila's lips felt like both a blessing and a curse. When dinner ended and the dishes were cleared, Lila found Emma alone in the kitchen. "Hey, you've been quiet tonight. Is everything okay?" Emma froze. Lila's voice was soft, her concern genuine. It would have been so easy to lie, to brush her off with a simple, "I'm fine." But instead, Emma blurted out, "Why are you so nice to me?" Lila tilted her head, confused. "What do you mean?" Emma bit her lip, her heart racing. "I mean, you don't have to go out of your way. I'm just Alex's sister. You don't owe me anything." Lila smiled, a gentle, reassuring smile that made Emma's knees weak. "Emma, you're not just Alex's sister. You're you, and I like you." Those words hit Emma like a tidal wave. She wanted to believe they meant more than they did, but deep down, she knew better. Lila was just being kind. Emma forced a small smile. "Thanks," she mumbled, before quickly excusing herself and retreating to her room. As she shut the door behind her, Emma leaned against it, tears streaming down her face. Her feelings were too big, too messy, too impossible. She didn't know how much longer she could keep them hidden, but one thing was certain: this wasn't going to end well. Days turned into weeks, but Emma's feelings for Lila didn't fade. If anything, they grew stronger with every moment they spent together. Lila often came over, her laughter filling the house, her warmth making everything feel lighter. For Alex, she was the perfect girlfriend, fun, supportive, and kind. For Emma, she was a forbidden dream that she couldn't let go of. One quiet afternoon, while Alex was out running errands, Lila and Emma found themselves alone in the living room. Lila had brought over a stack of old vinyl records, claiming she wanted to expand Emma's taste in music. "Trust me, this one's a classic," Lila said, carefully placing the record onto the turntable. The room filled with the soft, soulful tones of a love song that felt both timeless and heartbreaking. Emma sat on the couch, hugging a pillow to her chest as Lila plopped down beside her. "You're awfully quiet, as always," Lila teased with a smile. Emma shrugged. "I just don't have much to say, I guess." Lila tilted her head, studying Emma in that way that always made her feel exposed, as if Lila could see straight into her soul. You don't talk much, but when you do, it's always something worth hearing, Lila said softly. Emma's heart skipped a beat. Was she imagining the tenderness in Lila's voice? The way her gaze lingered just a second too long? I don't think anyone's ever said that to me before, Emma admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Well then, they're not paying attention, Lila replied, her smile fading into something softer, more serious. You're a lot more interesting than you give yourself credit for, Emma. For a moment, the room felt different, charged, as if the air had thickened with unspoken words and hidden emotions. Emma couldn't bring herself to look directly at Lila, afraid her eyes would betray everything she was feeling. But then, Lila reached out and gently touched Emma's hand. Hey, she said, her voice low. Are you okay? I feel like something's been bothering you. Emma froze. She wanted to pull away, to hide, to run from the moment, but she couldn't. Instead, she looked up, meeting Lila's gaze. Her eyes filled with unshed tears. It's nothing, Emma lied, forcing a small smile. But Lila didn't buy it. She squeezed Emma's hand, her touch both comforting and overwhelming. You can talk to me, you know. I'm here for you. Emma wanted to scream, to confess everything, to tell Layla how she felt. But how could she? Lila was her brother's girlfriend. This wasn't just complicated, it was impossible. I'm fine, really, Emma said, pulling her hand away and standing up abruptly. I just need some air. Before Lila could respond, Emma hurried out of the room, leaving Lila sitting there, confused and concerned. Outside, Emma leaned against the porch railing, her chest heaving as she tried to catch her breath. The cool breeze did little to calm the storm inside her. What am I doing? She whispered to herself. This has to stop. It has to. But deep down, Emma knew it wouldn't. That evening, Emma stayed in her room, trying to distance herself from everything. Lila, her brother, her own emotions. But the more she tried to ignore it, the stronger it all became. She couldn't escape her feelings, no matter how much she wanted to. The next day, Emma woke up to find the house unusually quiet. Alex had left early for a work shift, and Lila was still there, lounging in the kitchen with a cup of coffee. Emma hesitated at the doorframe, unsure whether to walk in or retreat. Lila noticed her. Morning, sleepyhead, she said with a small smile, gesturing to the seat across from her. Come join me. Alex won't be back for hours. Emma reluctantly sat down, keeping her gaze on her hands as she fiddled with her sleeves. Lila poured her a cup of coffee and slid it across the table. You look like you could use this. Thanks, Emma muttered, her voice barely audible. They sat in silence for a few moments, the only sound coming from the faint hum of the refrigerator. Then Lila broke the quiet. Emma, about yesterday, she began, her tone careful. Emma's stomach flipped. It's fine. Don't worry about it, she said quickly, trying to shut down the conversation before it started. But Lila wasn't letting it go. It's not fine. You've been so distant lately, and I can tell something's bothering you. I just want to help. Emma felt the walls she had carefully built around herself start to crack. She looked up at Lila, her eyes brimming with unshed tears. You can't help, Lila, she said, her voice trembling. Lila leaned forward, her brows furrowed with concern. Why not? Emma, you're important to me. I care about you. Those words were too much. Emma stood abruptly, the chair scraping against the floor. You can't say that to me, she exclaimed, her voice breaking. Lila froze, stunned by Emma's outburst. Why not? What's wrong with me caring about you? Because you're with Alex, Emma cried, her emotions spilling over. And I can't do this anymore. I can't pretend like I don't feel the way I do. I like you, Lila, more than I should. The room fell silent. Emma's confession hung in the air, raw and unfiltered. Lila's eyes widened, her expression a mix of shock and something Emma couldn't quite decipher. Emma, Lila began, but she didn't seem to know what to say. I know it's wrong, Emma continued, tears streaming down her face. I know you love Alex, and I'd never want to come between you two. But I can't keep this inside anymore. It's killing me. Lila stood slowly, crossing the room to stand in front of Emma. She placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. Emma, I had no idea. Of course you didn't, Emma said bitterly, wiping her tears. I've been hiding it, pretending like I'm fine. But I'm not. And now I've ruined everything. You haven't ruined anything, Lila said softly. Her eyes were filled with empathy, but also conflict. Emma, I care about you too, more than I probably should. Emma's breath caught. What are you saying? I'm saying that you're not alone in this, Lila admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. But this, whatever this is, it's complicated and it's dangerous. Emma nodded, her heart pounding. I know. That's why I need to figure out how to let it go. Lila sighed, stepping back. Maybe we both do. They stood there in silence, two hearts caught in a whirlwind of emotions, knowing that no matter how they felt, the path ahead wouldn't be easy. Days passed, and Emma tried to avoid Lila at all costs. She couldn't look at her without feeling the weight of everything she had confessed. But avoiding her wasn't easy when Lila was constantly around, and every glance, every word, felt like an unspoken conversation neither of them knew how to have. One evening, while Alex was in the garage working on his car, Emma found herself cornered in the hallway. She was on her way to the kitchen when Lila stepped out of the living room, blocking her path. Emma, Lila said firmly, her voice steady but soft. We need to talk. Emma froze. There's nothing to talk about, she muttered, trying to push past her. Yes, there is, Lila insisted, stepping closer. We can't just keep pretending like nothing happened. Emma's heart raced. What do you want me to say, Lila? That I regret telling you how I feel? Because I don't. I just wish I could make it go away. Lila's expression softened. You don't have to make it go away, Emma. What you feel, it's valid, but we have to figure out how to handle this without hurting Alex or each other. Emma looked up at her eyes filled with pain. How can we handle this, Lila? There's no way to fix this. You're with Alex. That's the reality, and I need to accept it. Lila hesitated as if weighing her next words carefully. I care about Alex, I do, but… She trailed off, her voice faltering. But what? Emma asked, her voice trembling. Lila sighed, her shoulders slumping. But I can't stop thinking about you. I don't know what it means, but I know it's not fair. To you, to Alex, or to me. Emma felt a flicker of hope, but it was quickly drowned by guilt. Then what do we do, Lila? What's the solution here? I don't know, Lila admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. But I know I don't want to lose you, Emma. Not completely. Emma turned away, tears streaming down her face. You can't have it both ways, Lila. You can't be with Alex and keep me on the side like some secret. It's not fair. I know, Lila said, her voice breaking, but I don't know how to choose. I don't even know if I can. At that moment, Alex's voice echoed from the garage. Lila! Emma! Can one of you grab me a drink? The tension shattered like glass, and Emma quickly wiped her tears. I'll get it, she said, walking past Lila without looking back. In the kitchen, Emma leaned against the counter, her hands trembling. She wanted to scream, to cry, to make everything stop. But all she could do was take a deep breath, grab a bottle of water, and hand it to Alex as if nothing had happened. That night, as Emma lay in bed, she stared at the ceiling, her mind a whirlwind of emotions. She knew she couldn't keep living like this, trapped in a cycle of longing and guilt. Something had to give, but she didn't know what or who it would be. And deep down, she feared that when the breaking point finally came, it would tear them all apart. Emma avoided both Alex and Lila as much as she could in the following days. The tension had reached a boiling point, and she didn't trust herself to stay composed. Every moment she spent around them felt like she was walking a tightrope, one misstep away from everything collapsing. But Lila wasn't making it easy. She tried to talk to Emma at every opportunity, her eyes pleading, her words careful yet desperate. Emma could see the conflict in her, but instead of feeling comforted, it only made the pain worse. One evening, as Emma sat alone in the backyard under the dim glow of the porch light, Lila found her. Emma heard the soft creak of the door and felt the chill of the night air as Lila stepped outside. Emma, Lila began, her voice steady but strained. We can't keep avoiding this. We need to talk. Emma didn't look up. What's there to talk about, Lila? You've made your choice. You're with Alex. That's the end of it. Lila stepped closer, sitting down beside her on the bench. It's not that simple, Emma. You know it's not. Emma turned to her, her eyes blazing with frustration. Then make it simple, Lila. You either love him or you don't. You either want me or you don't. Stop keeping me in this limbo where I don't know what's real anymore. Lila flinched at Emma's words but didn't look away. You're right, she admitted, her voice soft. You deserve better than this. Better than me. Emma's heart ached at the vulnerability in Lila's tone. Then why are you here, Lila? Why do you keep coming back? Because I can't stay away from you, Lila said, tears brimming in her eyes. But I also can't bring myself to hurt Alex. He's been nothing but good to me. And yet, every time I see you, every time I hear your voice or see you smile, I feel like I'm breaking apart inside. Emma shook her head, her own tears spilling over. This isn't fair, Lila, to any of us. I know, Lila whispered, her voice trembling. But I'm scared, Emma. Scared of what this means. Scared of what people will think. Scared of ruining everything. Emma let out a bitter laugh. You think I'm not scared? I've been terrified since the moment I realized how I felt about you. But I can't keep living like this, Lila. I can't keep hoping for something that might never happen. Lila reached out, her fingers brushing against Emma's. I don't want to lose you, she said, her voice cracking. Emma pulled her hand away, standing up abruptly. You already have, she said quietly, her voice filled with sorrow. Lila's breath caught, and for a moment, neither of them spoke. The silence was heavy, suffocating, filled with all the words they couldn't bring themselves to say. Finally, Emma turned and walked back into the house, leaving Lila alone in the cold. That night, as Emma lay in bed, she stared at the ceiling, her heart shattered. She had made her choice, even if it was the hardest thing she had ever done. She couldn't keep waiting for something that might never be, couldn't keep sacrificing herself for a love that was tearing her apart. And, though it hurt more than she thought possible, she knew it was the only way to find peace. Weeks passed and life in the house grew quieter. Emma avoided Lila whenever possible, keeping her distance and focusing on her studies, hobbies, and friends. She poured herself into anything that would distract her from the ache in her heart, though it lingered like a shadow she couldn't shake. Lila, on the other hand, tried to act normal, but everyone could see the strain. Even Alex began to notice. You've been quiet lately, he said one evening, sitting beside her on the couch. Is something wrong? Lila forced a smile. Just tired, she replied. But Alex wasn't convinced. You sure? You don't seem like yourself. Lila hesitated, her guilt weighing heavily on her. She wanted to tell him everything, to confess her feelings for Emma, to come clean about the turmoil inside her. But every time she thought about it, she froze. She couldn't bear the thought of hurting him, of breaking the trust they had built. One afternoon, Emma decided she needed space. Real space. She packed a small bag and left a note for Alex, telling him she was going to visit a friend for a few days. She needed time to clear her head and figure out what her next steps would be. As she drove away from the house, she felt a mix of relief and sadness. She loved her brother and cared about Lila, but staying in that house felt like slowly suffocating. In her time away, Emma stayed with her best friend Olivia, who lived in a nearby town. Olivia didn't pry, but she could tell Emma was carrying a heavy burden. You don't have to tell me what's going on, Olivia said one evening, as they sat on the porch sipping tea. But just know I'm here for you. Emma nodded, grateful for the support. Thanks, Liv, she said softly. The days away gave Emma clarity. She realized that she couldn't control how Lila felt or what choices she made. The only thing Emma could control was herself, her actions, her decisions, and her happiness. When Emma returned home, she felt lighter, as if a weight had been lifted. She was greeted by Alex, who hugged her tightly. We missed you, he said with a smile. Lila was in the kitchen when Emma walked in. Their eyes met briefly before Emma looked away. Hey, Lila said, her voice cautious. Hey, Emma replied, her tone neutral. The days that followed were uneventful but peaceful. Emma focused on herself, spending time with Alex and rebuilding her sense of normalcy. She and Lila spoke occasionally, but their conversations were polite and brief. One evening, as Emma sat on the porch, Lila joined her, sitting down quietly. I wanted to thank you, Lila said after a long pause. For what? Emma asked, glancing at her. For being honest with me, Lila said, even when it was hard. It made me realize some things about myself that I've been avoiding for a long time. Emma nodded, her expression calm. And what did you realize? Lila hesitated. That I need to figure out who I am and what I want, on my own. I broke up with Alex this morning. Emma's heart skipped a beat. You did? Lila nodded. It wasn't fair to him, or to you, or to me. I've been living in this bubble of denial, trying to please everyone except myself. But I can't keep doing that. Emma didn't know what to say. A part of her felt relieved, but another part felt cautious. What are you going to do now? I'm going to take some time for myself, Lila said. Figure out who I am outside of all of this. And I think you should do the same. Emma nodded, a small smile forming on her lips. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. They sat in silence, watching the sun dip below the horizon. For the first time in weeks, Emma felt a sense of peace. She didn't know what the future held, but for now she was okay with that. Because sometimes the only way to heal is to let go. The end.